Hello everyone, it's Johnny 𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐿, and in this video I'll be listening to 𝐻𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐿 minutos del sol by Spinetta. Luis Alberto Spinetta is of course the creative genius behind Almendra, Pescado Rabioso and Invisible. And you can find videos on my channel about the first Almendra album as well as the first two albums from Invisible. But the very first time I heard from Spinetta was on the very last Invisible album, El Jardín de los Presentes, which remains my favorite Argentine rock album and one of my favorite albums of all time, in fact. After creating that masterpiece, Invisible unfortunately split up due to disagreements over the artistic direction of the band. This album, 𝐻𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐿 minutos del sol, was Spinetta's solo follow-up released only the year after El Jardín in 1977. On one hand, I'm expecting something a bit different from this album, since this was Spinetta's first solo project since creating Pescado Rabioso's classic 𝐜𝐡𝐚𝐬𝐽 more or less by himself, which was of course a progressive folk masterpiece. But on the other hand, not only was this album released shortly after the completion of El Jardín de los Presentes, but another third of the original Invisible lineup, bassist Machi Rufino, appears on this album as well. So I'm very excited to see how Spinetta did follow up on El Jardín de los Presentes, whether he continued in that majestic jazz prog style or if he changed things up in some way. Many of you have requested this album. I want to say thank you for all your comments. Please do me a favor and click the like button on this video, and let's get into this. Track 1 is called Viento del azur, or Azure Wind. Gorgeous. Straight away we hear that slightly psychedelic sound with the jazz chords and instrumentation, taking us away to that familiar yet oh so strange world that only Spinetta can create. Loved the intro. Sounded so nice. And once the song got going, it's a surprisingly smooth jazz sound, with Spinetta crooning at us almost in a whisper at times. It set a really strong atmosphere for me. And in the instrumental, there was almost a fusion approach in a similar vein to what Charly García was doing with La Máquina de Hacer Pájaros at the time. A little bit of that return to forever sound in the keyboards and production. But I'm very pleased to hear that that sort of magical �ഖ𝐢𝐬𝐵 from El Jardín is still present on this album, at least on this first track. Sounds just lovely. The next song, track 2, is called Telgopor. I had to look this word up, it means polystyrene. Let's go. Wow, okay. Yeah, definitely into that late 70s jazz fusion sound. Quite a bit more than I was expecting, actually. This is definitely coming from the same place that La Máquina de Hacer Pájaros was around the same time. I loved the breakneck tempo of this one. Excitement levels on maximum. And some really incredible playing from the whole band. I see the keyboard player is a gentleman named Diego Rapaport. And yeah, his playing was really impressive and pretty well matched by some lead guitar parts from Spinetta himself, which mixed together his usual more emotional style with some rather more technical jazz chops. And all the way through the song, bass playing from Machi just incredibly fast and precise, while also having his signature heavy sound incorporated into it. And on the drums we have Osvaldo Adrián López, who was, yeah, just as well keeping up with everyone. The whole band sounds really tight. They must have rehearsed a hell of a lot for this album, considering it was their first time making a record together like this. I think what I'm most impressed by is how, despite them working in this extremely technical style on this song, the fact that I could still hear the emotional playing style of Spinetta and Machi on this song was really compelling to hear, really pleasing as a fan of Invisible. On to track 3, it's called Viejas mascarillas, which I think means old masks. Magical. After the madness of Telgopor, we had more of the subtlety of the first track on this song. And it really feels to me like Spinetta was very aware of the magic moments he created on El Jardín de los Presentes. And on this album and this song in particular, he's really managed to zone in on that magic, really ramp it up and just get directly to my soul. It just sounds so nice, while still using that jazz fusion sound of the time, which I think is working really well. The highlight of this song for me was definitely Spinetta's voice, just beautiful. The next song is the title track, 𝐿18 minutos del sol. Wow, nice. Another instrumental track, but this one went through a few phases. The intro had a beautiful yet yearning acoustic guitar and piano combo. But after that, we kicked in with some more high-octane playing from the whole band. Another very high-tempo jam, this time with a 7/8 time signature to really ramp up the excitement. But 4 minutes in, the jam broke down to another beautiful vignette before hitting back with an emotional climax. And that ending reminded me of Ruido de Magia from El Jardín de los Presentes in the best way possible. Hits me hard. Now the next song, I had a comment on my most recent Invisible album from a gentleman named Eduardo Ángel, who wanted me to listen to this song in particular. And my good friend 𝐿𝐴 mentioned that I really should listen to the lyrics of this one. Now, if you do watch my videos usually, you'll know that I don't really pay attention to lyrics on my first listen anyway. Lyrics tend to be secondary for me to the music. I'm much more about listening to the music and giving you my thoughts on my first listen to the sound. But in this case, I will take a look at the lyrics and try to understand the meaning behind them while I listen to the music this time. So it's track 5 and it's called Canción para los días de la vida. Wow, the beautiful sound of Spinetta and his acoustic guitar. The sound and the chords he used are surprisingly melancholic for a song that seems to be about simple pleasures in life and the birth of a child. But it gives off the feeling of awe at the beauty of existence, I think. As always, many of the lyrics are quite bizarre and abstract, but mixed in are descriptions of Spinetta's newborn child and how his birth has affected Spinetta's feelings towards life. As someone who is not a parent, but in a loving marriage, but will probably not be having kids, I can't directly relate, but the feeling of the music against these words is vividly beautiful. I loved the song. It's gorgeous, actually. On to track 6. It's called Toda vida tiene música hoy. All of life has music today.
Toda la vida tiene hoy. Todos los hombres.
Fantastic. This song felt to me like a perfect follow-up to the last song, with more of a celebration of being alive. A fantastic mixture of soaring vocal parts and more free instrumental sections, full of expressiveness and optimism. And again, very impressive playing from the whole band. But I feel that this song particularly really had a perfect balance between the written vocal parts and more improvised instrumental parts, in the way that the best prog rock does. The next song, track 7, is called ¿Dónde está el topacio? Where is the topaz? Great ending there. I really loved the vocal melody in this one. Against the swung beat, just sounded great. Sometimes the pacing in this song felt a little lopsided to me, like it didn't always transition well from section to section, I think. but each part that was there was very enjoyable. More excellent instrumental sections, and like I said, a really memorable melody. And that just leaves us with the last track. Track 8 is called La Eternidad Imaginaria, Imaginary Eternity. Nice. What a great way to end an album. At the start with the acoustic guitar, but also the keys and bass, it was really encapsulating the atmosphere of the album as a whole, I felt. Spinetta seemed to be really pushing his vocal range on this one, sometimes using falsetto and then pushing out the notes with power afterwards. It's pretty compelling. There were probably better tunes on the album as a whole, but I thought this one worked really well as a closer. So in some ways, this album really lived up to all my hopes, in that it definitely does continue that magical atmosphere that he was working with on the last Invisible album, El Jardín de los Presentes. But at the same time, obviously, there's something very different about this album. The first thing being the very clear jazz fusion influence of the time, which, as I said, reminded me straight away of what Charly García was doing on La Máquina de Hacer Pájaros at the same time. I wonder how much Spinetta was influenced by what Charly had done the year before, or was it just a sound that was becoming increasingly popular in Argentina at the time, and so they both happened to adopt it. Either way, it sounds great, and Spinetta really knows how to work with this sound. I love how clearly he's able to still put his voice across, you know, through his literal singing voice, but also through his guitar playing and his songwriting, while changing his sound, while working in these different formats. And what 𝐿_FLACO seems to really do different with this jazz fusion sound is he worked in much more of a subtle area of the sound a lot of the time on this album. The songs on here just feel very personal and very emotional. It definitely resonated with me. And the variety across the album, the more intense high tempo parts, the instrumental sections were often very exciting. And then some of the more quiet song-based sections, especially Canción para los días de la vida, absolutely beautiful, just stunning actually. Some of Spinetta's best songwriting, I would say, which again is not too surprising after how goddamn strong the songwriting is on El Jardín de los Presentes. But still, there was no guarantee it was going to continue onto this album, and I'm very pleased to say that for me it has. So yeah, fantastic album. Already looking forward to listening to it again. And if anyone's wondering, next up for Spinetta will probably be Spinetta Jade, the first Spinetta Jade album. So I'm really looking forward to hearing that. But other than that, please let me know what you think of this album. Let me know in the comments what else you want me to hear. And if you would like to join us for some listening parties to re-listen to some of these albums together, you can follow me over on Twitch at twitch.tv/𝐿𝐿𝐿. I hope to see you there. If you've enjoyed the video, please consider supporting me with the link in the description to buy me a coffee. It helps me to be able to keep my channel going, keep making these videos, so I'll really appreciate it. And thank you very much for watching. Until next time, take it easy.